Well, it's another cold morning at the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge. Today I carried once again my Z8 and my 600 PF, but today I got something special. Heather came with me and she was shooting with her Canon R7 and the 100 to 500. And we had a lot of fun. It was very overcast, not extremely cold. It was in the low 40s, low to mid 40s this morning instead of the last few times I've been here. It's been right around freezing, right around 32. But anyway, we started out kind of trying to do some blurs, and then some birds got closer. So anyway, let's take a look at what we got. Here's my first shot of the morning. It's 5 Sandhill Cranes flying along. Thought this turned out pretty cool. This is wide open at 6.3, as I believe all my shots will be today. And of course, they'll all be 600 millimeters. This is a prime lens. And my shutter speed is 1/400th ISO 2000. Now I've switched to working on blurs, and this is definitely a blur. This is 1/30th of a second ISO 180. And it's a young sandhill crane flying along, and you can see the background is nicely blurred, and most of the bird is blurred, but the torso and the eye and head area seem to be pretty sharp. So that's kind of what I look for in a blur, and this is kind of a small in the frame environmental blur. Now here is a blur at 1/30th of a second in ISO 64 of 4 Sandhill Cranes. This one on the far right in the front is immature and the rest are full adults. And this is kind of an artistic shot, even though none of the cranes are completely sharp, even in the head area, which I often try to get sharp. I still love the artistic look of this high key shot with the 600 millimeter PF. Here's another small in the frame shot at 1/30th of a second ISO 90 for this one. You can see the background is nicely blurred and the bird is mostly in focus as it soared over the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge. A little bit larger in the frame is the sandhill crane in this 1/30th of a second shot at ISO 180 as the bird is flying over the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge once again. Now I've sped my shutter speed up to 1/125th of a second. It's a lot easier to get a fairly sharp bird at this speed, but there will still be definitely some blur in the wings, and I wish there was a little bit more blur actually than this in the background. But overall, I still like this shot. I have two in this sequence. Here's the first one at ISO 280, and this second one, same shutter speed, 1/125th of a second, and ISO 250 for this one. I think I might like the second one the best in this pair. Here's another shot at 1/125th of a second. On this one, I did a 3:1 crop. This is 200 ISO. You got 5 Sandhill Cranes. All are adults except for this one right here is a juvenile. And the only one that's really sharp is this one and maybe this one. But I like the way the background looked with some trees and some more trees and some more trees behind that, even further away in the sky, and the birds tightly grouped and fitting into that layering. This is another 1/125th of a second shot of the sandhill crane, very sharp except for the very tips of the wings. This is ISO 80 as it flies over the wildlife refuge. Now I'm shooting at 1/640th of a second, which is still very slow for birds in flight, but we just did not have much light today, and this is about as fast as I shot all day long. This is ISO 2500, and I have 4 shots in this flyby that I picked. Here's the first one, 2 Sandhill Cranes, nice and sharp. There's some blurry Sandhill Cranes on the ground in the background. Here's the next shot, still 2500 ISO, the same 2 Sandhill Cranes. And you can see we're just about to get to the water. Here's the shore here, and there's water here and water here. Still lots of out of focus Sandhill Cranes in the background. Another shot in that flyby, more water in the background now than dirt, and still lots of blurry Sandhill Cranes. I think this spot up here is a stump, but all these other little blotches, or most of these other little blotches, are Sandhill Cranes. This one's 1800 ISO. And my last shot in this flyby is 1400 ISO of the 2 Sandhill Cranes. Now they're completely over water, but there is land with some grass and trees in the background. Pretty happy with this bunch of shots. I was shooting at 15 frames per second, and I picked the ones that had wing positions and backgrounds that I liked the best. And most of the birds flew by much further away than these, but these were relatively close. Here's three sandhill cranes at 1/400th of a second and 1800 ISO. The highest one here is an immature sandhill crane, and the other two are mature adults as they fly by. Now I've gone over to the left side, which is where Heather was shooting the majority of the morning, and I got these three sandhill cranes coming in for a landing in the field with lots of sandhill cranes around them. This is 1/640th of a second and ISO 2200. Here's a sandhill crane with some trees in the very near background, 1/640th of a second and ISO 2000. This is kind of an area that I try not to shoot too much because I don't like the busy background right here, but it was such a struggle for me today, I decided to go ahead and share this shot. Now here are five sandhill cranes shooting out the left side of the gazebo as they come in for a landing. This is 1/640th of a second and 640 ISO. We've got one nicely in focus sandhill crane in the center, flanked by four out of focus sandhill cranes, but they're all coming in for a landing. Here's a 40% speed slow motion clip of several sandhill cranes and one very rare whooping crane flying along with them. It's the white one. It's kind of behind some birds now, and now it should be coming out to where you can see it a little bit better. Here are Heather's shots using the Canon R7 APS-C camera and the 100 to 500 telephoto zoom lens. This is 500 millimeters f7.1, and Heather was switching back and forth between mechanical shutter for birds in flight, and she would switch over to electronic shutter for birds on the ground like this shot. This is 1/125th of a second, 500 millimeters f7.1 and ISO 800. Here's another beautiful sandhill crane on the ground at 500 millimeters f7.1, 1/125th of a second, ISO 1000. Here's a pair of sandhill cranes flying in. This is 1/250th of a second, not a very fast shutter speed. Like I say, it was very dark. I don't think Heather was attempting to make blurs. She was just trying to keep her ISO down, and this 500 millimeter shot at f7.1 is 800 ISO. Here's a pair of sandhill cranes flying across left to right, 500 millimeters. She's up to 1/400th of a second now, still wide open at 7.1 and ISO 1000. Heather was enjoying shooting from the left side of the gazebo as sandhill cranes were coming in for a landing in the field over there, and she did a nice job capturing interesting wing positions. This is 400 millimeters f6.3, 1/400th of a second, and ISO 2000. Here's another 400 millimeter landing shot at f6.3, 1/400th of a second, and ISO 2000. Another landing shot. She's still at 400 millimeters for this one. f6.3 is wide open on that lens at that focal length, 1/400th of a second, and ISO 2000. Now the bird's just about to touch down on the ground. This is still 400 millimeters f6.3, 1/400th, and ISO 2000. Now she's back to 500 millimeters f7.1 and 1/400th as a couple of birds are coming in for a landing. I like the sharp eyes in these two. 2500 ISO. Beautiful shot of these two sandhills coming in for a landing. We got a immature bird on the left and a mature bird on the right. This is 500 millimeters f7.1, 1/400th of a second, and 800 ISO. Three sandhill cranes coming in for a landing now. The bottom one is immature. This is 500 millimeters f7.1, 1/400th of a second, and ISO 640. Beautiful shot of this sandhill crane just about to touch down, and the one on the right is touching down. The one on the right looks like it's blinking. The one on the left has its eyes beautifully wide open. I like the colors in this. 500 millimeters f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and 2000 ISO. Here's an immature sandhill crane heading towards the ground. Looks like it might be blinking. Beautiful wing position in this. 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 3200. Beautiful adult sandhill crane coming into the flock there. 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 1250. Love the look of the eye in this shot. Here's another shot, possibly from the same burst. This one's 500 millimeters, 7.1, 1/640th, and ISO 1250. And once again, I love the look of the eye in this shot. Another landing shot from the left-hand side of the gazebo at 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and 1600 ISO. It's almost playing peekaboo with us there behind its flight feathers at the end of its wing. Here's one flying low at 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 2000. Another landing bird. She really liked capturing these interesting wing positions as the birds come in to land, and this is 500 millimeters, 7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 2000. Love this one. A lot of times when you capture one as it's landing on the ground in and amongst a bunch of birds, the birds will get in the way of the landing bird, but this bird is almost completely free of blockage. This is 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 1250. Here's another orchestra conductor wing position shot of a sandhill crane coming in to land with the rest of the flock. 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 1000. Another landing shot, 500 millimeters, 7.1, 1/640th, and ISO 1600. These landing shots are hard to capture, but Heather makes it look pretty easy. I like this shot of two sandhill cranes as they are banking. This is 500 millimeters, f7.1, 1/640th of a second, and ISO 2500. Two more sandhill cranes flying along as they make their way through the field. Sometimes when you look out of the left-hand side of the gazebo, there are some man-made things in the background, but still a beautiful shot at 500 millimeters, 7.1, 1/640th, and 2500 ISO. Okay, thanks for watching this video from the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge with Phil Thatch and my special guest, Heather Thatch, who came along today. A lot of fun we had. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see some more stuff like this, subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.